Hey, what's up, everybody? What's going on, Belmont? Let's see, how off is my audio today? I actually think, well, that's about a good level. I think we're good for that. All right, all right. Hey, Josh. So let's let me verify everything is working properly and before we start testing. So let's power off. So I guess I'll just show. I'll be opening up the console in a bit, but we have the HDMI and RGB connected at the same time. RGB is going to go to my little PVM. HDMI is going there. I figure we'll start with lag testing, and once we give a few minutes for people to join, we'll start with some lag testing, and then I'm going to add the audio module. And I also found a problem because in order to upgrade the firmware, you have to hit the reset button, and this reset button doesn't work. So we're either going to have to replace the reset button or try to clean it or something. And by the way, I'm 99% sure this is a 1900 by 1200 monitor, which is why you still see black bars on the top and bottom with this and with, anytime you have a 1080p output. So I forgot about that the other day when we were doing the VHS stream, and I was like, why the hell isn't that working right? I don't understand. And yeah, that's why, because it was not a 1080p monitor. What's up, Pask? Alexander, how's it going? Thank you for joining. This is very similar to the RGB blaster from Crix and the 7800 from James, in that it is kind of what you would call hybrid emulation. You're using the Genesis CPU and you're using all of the chips that are on it, but this board taps full digital signals and converts that to video. So the FPGA in this board is technically creating the video, but everything else is running on an original Genesis, which is why this one's kind of interesting to see the way it is. So let me test something real quick. No, I just wanted to check that. All right, so let me grab the 240p test suite, and we'll do some lag testing. And I think I know how this one's going to end, but, I wouldn't be me if I didn't double check. Mark, of course I put the blood code in. That was the first thing I did. Josh, has anybody tried to RGB mod VCR? No, because it's in VHS tapes are encoded in YC, in S-Video, essentially. So S-Video modding a VCR might make sense, but you can still get decent S-Video VCRs for about $100, or even less. I've seen them. So that's not quite a thing. Past that, you would just be doing an RGB to, or a S-Video to RGB conversion, which that's cool too, but that you could just probably get an external box for, or at least the S-Video to component, you get the Core U. All right, am I in view here? Only sort of, kind of. All right. Get this nice and close. I'm going to turn the ISO down so that we see the screens better. It's going to make everything else darker, but I'll turn it back up when we're done. And can we see them both nice and clear? That wins the good enough award. Video tests, lag tests, and I'm just going to hit record. And I'm going to play this back frame by frame to see if we can confirm that they're on. So actually, I should double check. So at the moment, it's only 1080p. There's different timings there's more information on the website, but the timings are more to get it looking original, but some displays aren't compatible with the second version, but that's not really going to affect whatchamacallit, that's not going to affect lag at all. So 4x, 5x, and everything in between, that's pretty cool. As you all know, I'm a fan of the 5x. Buffer, single buffer, and it says the input lag 0.65, so we'll be able to test that. We could switch it to 0 delay mode, and we'll test that as well. So in fact, let me test that second here. Go back in, lag test. All right. And let's see what we got. Mask, CRAM dots, post-processing. Okay. System. All right, cool. So we did the 2 different buffers. So let me take that video and we'll advance frame by frame and see what happens. Actually, let me see if I could do this. This is going to be a little tricky, but let me see if I could do this and share this display so you all could see this with me in real time. Yay! It'll reach. Look at that. Okay, cool. Yeah, Daniel, this will unless the stream gets flagged like the last one, this will be completely available, just in the same link and everything. Let me add display capture. No. That one, here we go. All right, and let's get VDub up in here. Virtual dub. All right. Yeah, Belmont, it got flagged, and then I was like, I'm just deleting this because I need to do a lot. I could have just stopped, and the stream supposedly would have continued, but the whole point of that stream was to rerun that same VHS tape over and over. So I did it myself afterwards, and yeah. All right, I have not seen that Mr. Bean episode. I don't think I've ever seen any Mr. Bean episode, yet I've always known who he is. Isn't that weird? Isn't that funny how, like, some people, you always know their faces, even if you didn't know their show or anything like that? I don't think I ever watched anything to do with Pee Wee Herman, but everybody knew who he was, so. Depending how old you are, you knew him as the guy that got caught wanking it in a theater. All right, let's... All right, so we're going to get the first one. We're going to make that full screen. So we see that one's on 59.7. This one's on 58 between 6 and 7. So the other thing that you need to keep in mind is this display, this Dell display here, was rated at, you know what, let me double check. I actually have the exact lag testing for this. Hey, what's up, Koala? All right. This is, damn it. All right, hold on. I have the old live stream I did that showed this. I think it's very important that we get the exact reading here. Let me, so we're at about 52. Let me drop this over here so you could see it as well. All right. Uh-oh, why are we not responding here? Come on, Edge, don't let us down. Oh, there we go. So here is, all right. So this is the monitor. Now this is an older stream of mine, which is kind of funny to watch an old stream with the same view as this stream. Weirding me out a little bit, but 53. All right. Wish I'd written this down somewhere. So that was the paper trick stream. That was Greg from Laser Bear's suggestion to lag test this thing. So it is 4.5 milliseconds of latency. Was that it? No, it was a little higher than that. There's no way it was only 2. 964, I think that was it. That makes more sense. Come on. Anybody remember the stream? Damn it. Well, this is now the most boring stream in the world when I'm showing you an old stream. Let me just double check real quick. I didn't see this. Trollbot, you're failing miserably. I am not wearing the same clothes. Oh, damn. Well, I guess it's... Hey, Shadow Mask. Yeah, let me grab my time sleuth and just do it again. You know, what the hell. Thought I was going to save some time here. So... And we're still going to need a piece of paper, because as we just showed from that other stream, we need to use the paper trick. But let's just get started and see what happens. All right, we get signal, and this doesn't work because we need the paper trick. Yep. So... I have a crumpled piece of paper right here. Whenever I have spare paper, or like I only need to print half a page, I save the little crumbled sheets and I twist them up so when I need to start a fire in the fireplace, I already got one right there. So that actually looks like a legit reading. Okay, paper trick once again worked. So we're at about, let's just call this 6 milliseconds, right? So 6 milliseconds of latency on the monitor. So it should be about halfway behind the other one. So we should see half a frame. I originally thought this mod was able to output 480p as well. So I was going to use 2 CRTs to show, one HD CRT and one other, but I don't think Stanislav added it yet. I think it's only 1080p at the moment. So let me put that back in. I'll switch the view back over in a second. Component or LCD on LCD or composite on CRT? It's just, that's an impossible question to answer. I don't mean that disrespectfully. I'm just saying, like, what's your setup like? How much money do you have to spend? You know, are you using existing equipment? There's a lot of factors involved in that. So when we see this then, knowing that, right? Where's my mouse cursor? If we're at 58 between 6 and 7 and 59 right on the dot, let's try scrolling forward and seeing what else we can get. So we got 52.5, 52. So that's in the higher latency mode, and it's barely showing any latency at all. So let's close this and drop the other file in. This was in the lower latency mode. So we have frames at 1. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So we're even in the quote-unquote higher latency mode, we're still looking at definitely less than half a frame. And in the zero latency mode, this is about what, you know, 2/3 or a third of a frame would look like. I mean, that's the CRT there. I mean, this is excellent. This is really, really good. So I wasn't expecting it to be any different. Well, I wasn't expecting it to be laggy, and I was expecting the zero latency mode to be zero latency, but I wasn't expecting the higher latency mode to be like almost zero in itself. That is very cool. That is very, very cool. So we got that. Why don't I... So I will let the chat decide. Do you want me to start adding the audio mod and trying to update the firmware, or do you want to see this thing in action first in case I break it while trying to do anything else? I could grab I could very easily and quickly grab an EverDrive and just run through a couple of games just to see, but there will be no audio because the audio isn't added yet. Seriously though, how cool is that? That is really, really low latency, even in the more compatible buffered. Yeah, Koala, so the audio mod is an analog to digital conversion of the audio. That's it. So the audio mod just allows analog audio to pass through. So if you're going into like an OLED TV, but you also have a stereo, then it's a non-issue. You could just go and plug audio from the Genesis directly into your stereo. But where is my EverDrive? Oh, I think it's with my Nomad. Let me grab that. All right, I'm going to do a little bit of gameplay, and then I'll do the audio mod, and then I'll do some more gameplay. And this Genesis is already spoken for. Destiny wanted this one, but I still have that Opetus modded Super Nintendo if anybody wanted a very odd but awesome SNES. All right, so... what am I doing here? That should have brought up the video with a quick dropout. So Koala, if that's a good question. So if is this not syncing on? I have it in the other mode. Oh shit. All right, let me put that back for a second. So let me just try a different capture card. I have my, wait a minute, every time I put something in the data path vision, it crashes on stream. So let me go back to here for a second. We'll connect this here. So Koala, on an original Model 1 Genesis, if audio is your focus, so let's say you have a composite video CRT that you want to use, and you just want really good audio, I would just recap the console. I wouldn't mess with the triple bypass at all on a Model 1 Genesis. Now, Model 2, Model 3, there's a lot of other reasons why you might want to, but the audio was already pretty spectacular. So, all right, so we got to go to single buffer mode in order for, yeah, resolution, timing's 1, apply, okay. So let's see if this works now. I'll use the other HDMI cable to make it quicker to switch between them. There we go. So I think what Destiny's actually going to be using this for is to be able to use original hardware during live streams on CRTs, but stream in absolute crispy HD. So that would essentially make this perfect. Well, we got to start out with what you would expect me to here. Does the Wii AVE HDMI mod support RGB? I don't know. I think that might be HDMI only. Wow, this is absolutely gorgeous. That looks really, really good. The other thing, too, is if you've done this mod to your Genesis, this HDMI mod, that means you're probably going to be primarily playing on a flat panel. So just embrace the garbage jail bar filled RGB output for CRTs then. All right, let's see. So resolution. I'm not going to mess with timings just because that might drop the compatibility. But 4x, 4.5x. Yeah, this is yet another demo as to why I love 5x. Look at what we're cutting off. Nothing. Nothing of importance, yet we've filled the screen more on all sides without really messing with the aspect ratio. In case Ian jumps on, there you go, buddy, just for you. Hey, what's up, Joel? How different is an internal mod compared to using an external scaler? That all depends on how noisy the initial signal is. If the initial signal is like a Genesis 1, like this, then it's going to be a massive difference. But if the initial signal is very clean, then you'd be hard-pressed to truly find a difference, even to 4K. 8K probably, because you scale everything along with it. So that's kind of the thing. So we're still on... Oh, we're still on single buffer, huh? Oh yeah, single buffer, not zero delay. Got it. Okay. Advanced features. Oh, that's cool. I like that. And CRAM dots, you're not going to be able to see that in 4X mode. Oops. Right there. Guy, this is exactly what we're going to show in a couple of minutes, how it gets audio on the Model 1. Hey, Dorito. A PC monitor using a signal at 240p 120 is equivalent to a PVM and RGB. Depends. I mean, if you get a really nice PC monitor, yes. However, you're going to be adding at least a frame of latency doing it that way. Whereas if you just run it in 480p with scan lines, it looks identical. Both are the same brightness, so both are going to be much dimmer because half the info isn't getting passed through. So I did dig into that, and in fact, I did it on stream just to make sure that I showed everybody my work, but if you want to do that, I'll drop a link in the description for you. But I was really hoping that would be some kind of miracle, looks better overall, but it really is just better to run it in 480p. Where the heck? Playlists. I think it's under getting started now. Yeah, here we go. I will drop that in chat for you. That is everything that you need to know. Josh, 6X mode would be either for a 1200p monitor or for games like Virtua Racing where you want to zoom in even more. And no, I don't have that for either. What I will show here, though, let me plug in the Tink 4K. Joel brought up a really good question about the difference between a digital mod and a scaler. And if I grabbed like a one-chip SNES, I don't know, you know, if I did like an analog console versus a one-chip through the Tink 4K, you could tell the difference, but maybe not on a stream, maybe not, you know, with compression like that. It's not a giant difference for a really clean, really good upscale, but with a messy console like this, that's what I want to show you now, because I have a feeling you're going to be, you'll think it's funny, let's just say. So I'm going to plug this into the Tink, grab my RGB cable, and go into that. And input. Back it up, and let's see. So, advanced settings. Okay. So, do we see it in the sky? I can't quite tell because I'm not in full screen mode, but do you see a difference here? I definitely see some horizontal interference in the sky, but this Genesis is shockingly in good quality. This was with Cruise for a while, so I wonder if he did another bypass to it or something. It still looks pretty good. I mean, the Tink has a lot to do with that, of course. Hey, Stanislav, we already measured the input lag, and there basically isn't any. Like, in your zero buffer mode, there was none detected, and in even in the single buffer mode, there was barely any there. So, and we did power cycle once, but we didn't another time, so you nailed it with the delay. That was, or the latency. There is none, and that is awesome. Josh, have I tried the Wii U on a PVM? Absolutely. That's how I played all of the DS games, because the latency was so bad on those. This is the, yeah, there could be some strange visuals on there. You can see the artifacts. So let's go back and let me just switch it right. We're watching it mid scroll right to. All right, this is the HDMI mod now. Pretty massive difference, right? On a known noisy Genesis. The brightness was off on the analog as well, but I didn't run the auto calibrate for the Tink. I just plugged it in, so that probably wasn't the most fair. But oh, Stanislav, just know that all positive, all compliments so far. Not a single bad thing to say about this. We've all been loving it. Snaffers, at the beginning of the stream, the way I was able to do lag testing was by using the original analog output as well as the RGB. So it does retain the original analog video output, and analog audio is the way to do it before you get this mod done. The audio mod that I'm going to be doing. The other mod that I have to do as well is fixing the reset button. Stanislav, unless somehow you're able to find a different way to do the firmware update, my reset button doesn't work. So I'm having trouble, or I think I'm going to have trouble with that. I think I'm going to have to replace the reset button on this motherboard, which I've never done before, but it doesn't seem too hard. Famous last words. So yeah, nothing. So I wouldn't be able to do the firmware update. Oh wait, did that just work? Ooh, maybe some deoxit will fix it then. Yeah, all right. We're getting, maybe we won't have to. Stanislav, should I do the firmware update before the audio mod? I would assume so, but you're definitely going to know better than me. I also just want to check. Oh, so composite video does still work on this as well. What's up, Kev? Yeah, so that's just, well, out of focus, sorry. That was RGB before, now it's composite. So this is mostly a stock Genesis, and I'm going to try to update the firmware as is, basically. So let me leave this right here, and I'm going to leave it dim so you can see the screen again, and I will switch this over. Let's see, how could I do this? So do I still get something here when there's no... Let's see what happens here. Do I still get a menu if there's no cartridge plugged in? No. All right, so instead of leaving the EverDrive plugged in, I'm going to bring the 240p test suite back. And I think, unless Stanislav replied, and I haven't seen it yet, I think I'm going to try to do the audio, or the firmware update first, and go from there. So let me put this back and see. All right. Does that YPVPR SCART cable work on a SCART to component converter? I don't know what you mean. What do I think of the new FPGA Game Boy? I think it's awesome. I loved Tito's video on it. And I guess here's the best way to describe how much I liked that. When I was done watching the video, I texted cousin Scott and said, hey, if your backlit Game Boy Color ever dies, this is the one that you should buy. I cannot imagine a bigger compliment than that. All right, so let's see. So it wouldn't, because that passes, that one from Retro Gaming Cables is essentially a component video cable with a SCART head on the end, designed for devices like the OSSC, the Tink, and the Tink 4K that could accept both signals. So the only purpose of that would be, let's say you have 7 consoles that are all RGB, and then one that's component, just run them all through the same switch using that. All right, so let me... So right now I'm going to use these instructions. Wait a minute, hold on. Nope, wrong instructions. Hold on. So here's what I'm going to attempt to do. So according to the instructions, select the latest COM port, press the init port button, and wait for the update process to complete. So nothing happened, which means I must not be in the correct mode. So let's... I wonder if I have to keep holding reset. It just says port is opened and nothing else. So let's, so we're still on firmware 22. So let me see if I could share just this. It would actually be very, yeah, wow, okay, cool. So that's the software. That is the updater software right there. As you can see, it has some kind of COM port there, and it just says port isn't opened. So I might have to open this up and use tweezers to jump the reset button or something like that in order to make this happen. Thank you so much, Kev, for the super chat. That is really nice of you. I really appreciate it. I guess the best thing to do is just open it up. So let me do that real quick. Let me change the angle. I'll turn up the brightness. And let's open this thing up real quick. I could also show off Cruise's installation, because y'all know I didn't try to do this myself. It would have taken me 10 times as long and I'd have messed something up. And hey, Kola, and if anybody happens to see Stanislav in the chat, please ask about any suggestions for this, for the firmware update, if I have to do anything differently. While I'm doing this, is anybody interested in mostly a Genesis? Oh, hold on, I'll explain. I have a prototype case here, and inside is a motherboard I was going to use for this until I found out you can't really use it with this mod. So this one has the subcarrier bypass. So this one has much better RGB, but retains composite video. So, you know, I have the mechanism for the cartridge slot, but you would need to then provide your own headphone slider, reset button, and power switch. So in fact, I'm even going to use this one to test out my little theory here, because it's already opened, and if I short anything out on the one that I'm trying to sell, the worst thing that could happen is I don't sell it, which is fine, where I don't screw up a nice new installation. So let me try that idea with that one. But if anybody's interested, I definitely need to sell that and the Opetus SNES, and I think everything else is spoken for. I think I got an SNES Mini and a triple bypass Genesis 3, but those are much less exciting. All right, so everything in here looks good. So I'm going to put this aside and try this one real quick. I'll just take the top right off. 240p test suite. I believe this is a VA4 Mega Drive, technically, so not a Genesis. And I don't seem to have the LED thing for it too, but you could just solder connections right to it. That's not a big deal at all, right to CM9. But this does seem to work. Let me change the angle so you all could see it. So what I'm going to try to do is use tweezers. So this reset button works, so if I need to replace them, that is fine. But let's just try the tweezer trick first and see what happens. Oh, Koala, message me. Let me know what you need. Joella, I am already on it, my friend. You have no idea how deep I've been going down that, talking to everybody involved. Guy wants to know about using 5-volt 2-amp voltage regulators over 5-volt 1-amp. I don't know if there's a benefit, but I don't think it could hurt at all. So, all right, let's see. So I'm going to try touching these together. What about these? Okay, so let me bend my tweezers out a little bit here. All right, so all we should have to do is hold these tweezers while powering it on in order to enable update mode. And then I can go back and check out the reset button again. It does work, it's just kind of finicky, so it would be totally fine for, like, if you got to the end of X-Men, just keep tapping it lightly until it worked. But I don't know about something like this. So if we can get this update working this way, I'm not going to worry about the reset button, but if not, then I'll just replace it. All right. Do they run cooler or anything? That's a good question. I'm not really sure. Winter Hell, if you use the HD Retrovisions, they won't. Oh, cool, Koala. Just let me know, and or just hit me up on Discord, and I'll get that all ready for you. Thank you very much, Belmont, but I actually think we're good to go on that one. All right, so that turned on. That's fine. Let's try it again with the reset button held. And by held, I mean so now I'm not getting video output. So I feel like this is doing it. I feel like we're in the correct mode here. So I'm going to restart this program. It should just automatically come up here. COM7, a NIT port, and it just says port is open. Same thing. Oh wait, no, it's going. I'm so glad I was patient and didn't just click off of it. Okay, so we may have gotten this. Koala, if you end up with that Genesis 3, you're going to see what we've all been raving about. You're going to plug in that tiny little console, and then you're going to plug it into your stereo and go, holy shit. It says update is completed. So I'm just going to close port, exit, and now let's try power cycling this sucker. So off, back on. HDMI is back. And let's check out the on-screen menu. I should probably power cycle this sucker again. But in fact, let me do it through this so you all could see it directly. Here we go. Just so you know, Koala, the triple bypassed Genesis 3 does not output composite video, only RGB. So as you can see, it says firmware 23. Resolution is still only 1080p. Is 240p and 480p going to be available on this, if you're still watching, Stanislav? Because while it's not going to be the most used feature, this would also be a great way for people who, like, let's say, for example, you have a composite video CRT that you love, some big, beautiful thing, but you also have a PVM. Use composite video for the consumer TV, and then for the PVM, use an HDMI to component video or RGB converter and get crystal clear 240p out of that. So that would work. Same with 480p. So. Screen size, height 5x, 4x, same thing as before. Real OC Gamer, will the HDMI output at an exact 60 hertz? Thinking of link cables of the Mega SG. Would you be able to use an... That's all excellent questions. I'm not really sure, but that's when things like the single buffer versus zero delay mode might come into play. And wow, after updating the firmware, zero delay mode works. So if you looked at the changes in the firmware log, you'll actually see that there's some compatibility updates listed. So that must be part of it. So now we could run in zero delay mode on this capture card. That's cool as hell. Post-processing. Audio, here we go. So I have to do the hardware mod for that to work, but okay. So timings is the other thing. Was this going to work with the new timings? Yeah. Wow, so updating the firmware 23 added a lot, including compatibility updates. That is really cool. That is really cool. This is excellent. Huh. So we're still at the zero delay mode, input lag 0. This is cool. So the product hasn't even hit a mass release yet. We're already getting excellent firmware updates for it. This is cool as hell. Look at that. Beautiful. Well, I guess it's time for the audio mod then, right? That was fairly easy, all things considered. So here's what I want to work now. Would that mod benefit from being combined with the TINC 4K? So if there is a direct 240p mode, then yes, because then you could use the TINC scaling to go to 4K or to 1080p 120. If not, then if you're using CRT filters, maybe not. If you are, probably. It's that's going to be one of those things that's really going to end up being completely up to you. But if there is a 240p mode, I would say so, yeah. I would think that was a pretty cool option. But once again, I mean, the purpose of this is for people who specifically want original hardware and hybrid emulation. You know, if you don't want original hardware, just get a Mister. And if you want full original hardware, then you have to use an analog scaler only. But I personally think stuff like this is awesome, so I'm definitely a fan. Let me grab this. Koala, I will put this aside for you here. And let me get this angled down and I'll start working on the audio mod. And this one shouldn't be too hard. I mean, famous last words, right? This is a Bob stream. Who knows what I'm going to screw up, but it seems pretty straightforward. So, like, I don't even, let me double check, but I don't even think I need to touch the bottom of the board for this. Would there be any benefit to this in quality over the Mega SG? If there's any bugs in the Mega SG or anything that takes away from the original, then yes, this would have an advantage because you're running on original hardware. But for the most part, for your average person, I'm going to say no, and I mean that respectfully. All right, so I'm going to start taking this apart. Stanislav, if you're still listening, one of the things I noticed is that you're pulling audio directly from the headphone jack itself, which would require the volume slider to be up. Why not pull it from, actually, let me grab you a direct link. Can we try pulling it from a different place so it's mostly line level? Let me grab the exact link. And coincidentally enough, this is the second guide I ever wrote for RetroRGB. First was a Wii adapter. So, wait, so Guy, you're saying you want volume control through the HDMI port? What am I missing? This one. Where'd those tweezers go? This one, I think I got one screw to go, 2 screws to go. All right. Let me look over this guide again and see. Genesis 1 is always mono unless you do some kind of stereo mod. So this Genesis right here, this port, this was one of the ones you see pictured on the website. This is one of my original Genesis consoles that I bought for RetroRGB, and I added that. And now I'm a huge fan of no-cut mods, so I left that there just to keep the hole filled. There's many other ways you could accomplish this now, thanks to all the amazing members of the community, including just using an RGB cable, like, where are we here? Like this. So you plug the audio into the front and video into the back, and that runs out and gets you RGB out of both. So put that there. All right, let me check the guide again. I'm going slow and sure because I don't want to mess up Cruz's work. So the board looks like it slots into the top. Here's the board. Where is that? So it would be this is not quite lining up. So it's on the other side. It's on the underside. So I do need to remove the board itself. All right. And so if I can do this without getting thermal paste all over me. Come on. Stupid magnet thing, get it? There we go. And we need these bigger screws. I can't believe how long it's been since I've taken apart a Genesis 1. Gotta be at least a year, I think. Wait, yeah, it'd be about a year since the last live stream I did with it. That's funny. For a long time, I was in these things daily, especially when we were triple bypass testing. There. Am I missing something? I always like to be extra careful here. Okay. Put this aside. So this is the installation that Jose did. Super clean. All the wires are run nice, run around the board so nothing's pinched when it's plugged in. Everything's done really well. I'm glad I didn't try to do that. I probably would have gotten it working, but it wouldn't have looked like this. I think we all know that. So let me pull the heatsink off and kind of reassess where we're at for the audio mod. Oop, come on. I have to do it this way. Oop. Where'd that go? Alright, flip this back over. And I will clean that up and add some thermal paste before we put that all back together the final time. And here's what the top of the board looks like. Very cool. So let me grab a screwdriver by hand and try taking that board off. Catching up with chat too here. Audio is soldered from below. Yeah, I'm just, I really am just going slow and steady. I have a tendency to just jump into stuff, and with something that's already been modded really nicely, I'm just taking my time, going super slow. Okay. I believe so that slots in perfectly right here. Let me see if you could see it. So that extra board slides right in on the bottom. So let me just double check the points that I need. All right. And once again, if anybody's following along with my slow and steady wins the race, that's what I'm following. So I need to, let me find my glasses. So I turned into an old man now. .3 volt looks like this one right here. 3.3 volt out. 3.3 volt out. Yep. Okay. So that's going. So run that wire underneath to this one. And then this is ground right left, and that's 3.3 volt in. Okay. So this is all fairly easy. So let me go get some cables for this then and start messing with it. I'll keep checking the chat as well. Yeah, Jared, we absolutely are, because anybody, how many of you have like gotten almost all the way done with a mod? You have somebody lined up to buy it, which in my case, my friends, the mods that I get are usually already pre-done for a friend. Like somebody said, hey, here's the cash, or I'll drop ship it to you, and then when you're done, just give it to me. So you get to that point, and then you screw it up. So you either got to fix it, or you owe your friend a bunch of money, and it gets panicky. And so, yeah, I take these very slowly nowadays. Very, very, very slowly. I can't afford to replace a bunch of broken stuff, so let me move all of this over. Let me see, where am I looking here? All right. Let's find some wires for this. I'll start with my sack of random ones, because I bet you we might even be able to have like a 3.5 millimeter cable that I could cut the end off of. Yeah, that's individual, but we might still be able to use it. Every once in a while I get lucky and I'll just dump this out and have the perfect length wire or something. Alright, so that's voltage, so that should actually be a good wire to use for that. And I'd like to try to use shielded cabling for the audio, so I might just cut this one off and use that. So let's try both of those things. Hey Artemio, how's it going? Where are my yellow strippers? I just have those. All right, so one wire we need, it's got to be about that long. And this is for power. And yes, that's way too long, I know, but we're gonna trim all of it down. And then let's get some for the actual audio lines. I think that would be it. And I'm going to try the points I have in that original guide that I did. And I'll see what happens. Maybe I'm going to be stupid doing it that way. Maybe I should have just done it the way listed in the guide. But if it works, at least you'll have an alternative way to do it. Okay, so I'm not going to use this. Can you see this here? Let me make sure you can see this. This is not a shielded cable. Where am I here? That is just a ground and a lead next to each other. So I want to keep looking for shielded cables to use for the audio lines. What about... I think these might be. Let me snip the end off of this and try. Interesting. All right, I have to keep looking for shielded cables then. I mean, you don't need to do that, but what if I accidentally run it across something that emits noise? I could use two cables, I guess. What about this one? Maybe I could just take this composite cable and cut it twice. Let's see. That's shielded. Okay. Let me clean this crap up and throw that out. Soldering iron. I will check the chat, and also my stream is being very weird. I guess it's okay. I just needed to refresh it. If anybody's having any stream problems, just refresh the window and that should fix it. Not sure what the heck the problem was. Hey, what's up, Tony? All right. So all right. So I'm going to make a few adjustments in order to get this properly soldered up. All right, 3.3 volt in. I'm going to solder that down and then, of course, snip off the excess. It's so funny how crap I get at soldering when I just don't do it for, are we at the right angle? When I even just don't do it for a couple of weeks. Let's drop that down. All right. That should be about right. That is in. Not at all a cold solder joint, not even close, but tons of excess, so I'm going to snip that off. All right, voltage is good. I need to add right, left, and ground, which I'm going to try to use with this cable, but a couple of them. So let me measure this out real quick. Your US Genesis is a purplish gem where the LED would be. I don't know if that's stock. All right, snip that. Snip these. I'm also going to need a way to determine right and left. Actually, Stanislav, if you're listening, if there's a way to add a firmware update to reverse the audio for people who do the mod wrong, I'd be willing to bet you'd save a lot of people a lot of trouble from that. But I'm going to just use a piece of tape to mark which one is right and go from there. Let me grab some tape. Grab this. my scissors. So we'll look up the right one first. Actually, we should do both because I need to tie the grounds together. So let me get this all clipped up. Now, you might be thinking I'm being a little obsessive with this, with the grounding and the shielded cables, except if you're going to an HDMI mod, there's a very good chance that you're going to be either streaming or going through a stereo. So anything you could do to reduce the amount of analog ground hum is good. You're never going to get rid of it. I mean, unless you use Mr. and True Digital Audio, but other than that, it's impossible to get rid of any kind of ground floor. But you can make sure that things around it doesn't add to it. All right, so let me just... It's very small, but we're going to do it. It is depressing how bad my eyes have gotten in the past 2 years. I really got to make an appointment for a good eye doctor. I just keep... That place I went to last year was like, oh yeah, the only solution to your problem are the things that we sell in the store. Don't bother looking at the LASIK or anything else. The only solution is what we sell. So fucking typical in medical stuff these days, but, you know, it is what it is. All right. Okay. Not making a very good connection here. There we go. All right. Snip off excess. So now I gotta grab my other tweezers. I'm gonna need those in order to move the cables through the holes like that. Neil, no. That doctor, like a younger me would have absolutely lost my shit in that office, and then probably tried to make a big stink about it. I just don't have time, and for what, right? It's always your word versus the doctor's. It's like cops, right? Good luck trying to get somebody in trouble. But no, I did not go back. If that was one of the most offensive things I've been through. I have no history of drug abuse, but I was treated like a complete drug addict. I found a doctor, and one of the first things I said was what happened. And the doctor and the nurse were like, I'm so sorry that you went through that. And then I've been to him twice now for just, not a cough, but just normal stuff. And he's been amazing. So I finally found, when my doctor retired a couple of years ago, I was really worried because I know, I just know how bad the medical system is. I was worried I'd never find a good doctor. And after that cough syrup incident, I assumed that I'd be looking for a good doctor for years. And then when I just so happened, the next one that I tried was great, smart, respectful. I was like, this is not common. I got super lucky. Yeah, that was really shit though. When she ended it with, and I don't want to hear you coming back in a day saying you dropped the bottle, I was like, oh, you could fuck right off. It didn't work either, by the way. The one that I wanted was the only one that actually works for cough. Whatever crap she gave me did not work at all, not even a little. All right, I will zoom in to show you all, but I think we have two very solid connections here. Let's, where am I? Obviously, I'm going to trim the excess, obviously, but I just wanted to show that first. So we have three very solid connections. So I'm going to snip off that excess, mount it in, and then start trying to solder the rest of it to the Genesis and the other board. All right, way better looking, and right still has the tape on it. Okay, so let's, I'm going to have to flip this over to get this on here. Anybody else have do their soldering in a spot with rugs, not on a hardwood floor? So even if you vacuum, if you don't get it right, one of these days you're walking across the floor and a little shard of wire sticks into your foot. Hate when that happens. All right. Let's rotate this over. This way. These will be going around here. Let me get those there. All right. So I'm going to tack one in and then go back and realign everything and go from there. So come on. Okay. And I don't want it touching anything, so I just want the pins coming through. All right, 3 more to go. All right. Well, that was weird. Did y'all see that shit go flying? I guess that was a piece of the rosin that was in there. All right, so we are mostly good. So what I'm going to do is screw this back down and then add the voltage and then go back and do the audio mod last. In fact, I might power this thing on with HDMI one more time just to, but you know, after adding power, but before doing the audio, just to make sure I didn't mess anything up, which is always plausible. I'm obviously going to have to retrim that wire, which is too long. And I'll stop and check the chat in a moment as well. I'm just, it's very hard to do at the same time as all this other stuff. So I think I'm going to do like that. Should just need one tiny little bit up top. Add some solder. Yep, add a little bit more here. All right, so let's zoom in and see where we're at now, which supposedly I just need the audio. I'm going to handheld camera, so shaky cam coming in. Sorry, everybody. All right, so that's 3 volts connected. That is the pins. And I'm going to turn it on its side so we could see that. So that was the audio board that I installed. Sorry, I'm focusing with one hand here. I think the crystal's touching the motherboard. So let me see if I could finagle some tape in there just to make sure. I left it hanging low because I didn't want it to touch the HDMI board, but you know, let's be extra cautious here. Let me unscrew that and just add one small piece of tape. What's the worst that could happen? I don't need it. I could handle that. All right. I'll stop and check the chat as well. Hey, Bubba. Have I been asked to review soldering irons? No, I'm not good enough. It's a Voltar Cruise type of thing. I'm good enough to do this stuff. I absolutely could do this mod, but not nearly as good as Cruise, which is why I have him do it all for me. So, but no, that's not really my thing. What would have been most relevant would have been back in the day when I was using what I thought was a decent one, and then as soon as I switched over to an actual decent one, it was kind of mind-blowing how massive a difference it was. I mean, I went from looking like I'd barely ever soldered in my entire life to somebody that was completely passable just by switching to equipment that didn't suck. All right. Okay, mounting point's good. So now we're going to flip this over, and we could use the other mounting point for audio, but I would like to test out. Well, I guess first let's test to make sure this thing still works. But I want to try pulling it from the spot that I had found years ago, which is sort of lined level. It's not. It comes from the headphone amp, but it's not affected by the slider. So there are two independent controls there. So let's do all this, and let's carefully plug it in and cross our fingers and see what happens. All right. I'm going to hook up analog as well, so that way we could tell if it's my mistake, an HDMI mod mistake, or maybe I forgot to plug power in, which is always funny. Where'd that power go? Here. And I need a cart. Very carefully. All right, we're still good. Wait, you didn't see that. What an asshole, I'm sorry. We're still good. So, I wasn't expecting issues, but it's nice to know that we don't have any. All right, that in there. So now, here's the one I think I'm going to do, because I think this might be a help. So, look underneath the switch and look for R51 and C46. Do I have that on this one? R51 and C46. So it's going to be underneath the volume slider. R51 and C46 are right there. I'll get all zoomed in and show you when I'm ready to do an actual mod. It's so funny to see. If you scroll down to the bottom of that page, this is the Genesis that we're using, the one with a 3.5 millimeter jack. Well, that's funny. Destiny's getting an OG piece of RetroRGB history. So I believe, let me see if I can get this zoomed in. Actually, let me just grab another tool and everything. Yeah, all right. So good old multimeter. Gonna check for tone. So, all right, so these big points are ground, exactly as I expected. Can you see that, or am I just tapping at stuff? I'll zoom in a second. So we're confirming that these are ground. And then next to R51, I believe, was the... So I think we have right and left. Wait, no, left and right, yeah. Yeah, it seems to be it. So I will zoom in for you to all see, and I'm even going to put a link to the exact picture I'm using here. That one on the right. 196, yeah, we are slow and steady wins the race, super boring, as unbelievably careful as I possibly can doing this, both because I don't want to screw up the work that Cruz already did, but also because I want to try this method and see how it works and see if that's something that Stanislav would want to add so that you don't actually add it to the slider, so it's independently controlled from that. So what we're looking to do is put left and right, and ground and ground. So I am nowhere near talented enough to do that with, zoomed like that. I'm going to leave that to the Voltars of the world. Instead, I'm going to, unfortunately, just kind of do it and then show you the work afterwards. If you really want to know how hard this stuff is, don't just try it. Try doing it with a camera right over it. So you have to move your hand so that you can still see it. Sometimes you end up using the camera's viewfinder instead. It is not an easy thing to accomplish. So I believe, and the other thing I want to make sure that I'm aware of is where this cable is going to be coming up through. I think there's a couple of places for it, but I think essentially we're going to be running it here. So I will make sure to cut accordingly. And let me just triple check one last thing. All right, so left is closer to R51. All right. So here we go. If I don't screw this up, we should be done very shortly. Sure to... Trim it a little more. I hope I don't regret that. Glasses. I read all this stuff about how some people are taking certain supplements and you could gain back some eyesight, not a lot, but you could also prevent any further decay. I was like, that's something I should look into. And the pills are like $150 a bottle. So that's like $150 a month that I'd have to spend. And I'm like, holy shit. Health really does cost everything. And I'm going to add fresh solder to all of these points. So we got that. This one, I could, there, okay. Wow, nice and solid. I seriously doubt that my solder joints were this tight when I made that guide and started this website, but I've gotten a lot better thanks to everybody in the community always helping. That's one of the interesting things that doesn't really make sense until you start modding yourself, but having solder on both the target and whatever you're adding, and then making those bind together is the secret. And it's one of those things that you could talk about, but until you actually start doing it, it's really hard to visualize and get it right. I should have snipped that beforehand. Let me, yeah, shit. All right. Now the right one. Yeah, let me pre-snip the ground wire first. All right, tinned. And this should be it. We should be able to test and then just bolt it all back together and have a good working unit here. All right, I'm going to test for cold solder joints and then zoom into it with the camera, and then we should be good. No, no, no. All right, we're good. Let me... I'm going to do another handheld thing here, so sorry for the shakies. Let's... Trying to get it at the right angle, because the wrong angle it almost looked like that wire was touching, but it absolutely is not. And then on this side, okay. So I'm going to run another very quick test where we just plug it in and see if it there we go. So we're just going to power it on to make sure that it works, and then we're going to try audio, and then I'll bolt it all together. So let's flip it. Make sure there are no shards down here, so I don't want to short anything out. Okay. We don't have the heatsink on, so I don't want to keep it powered on too long. So we're just going to do two very quick tests. One is just making sure we get video, which we do. Beautiful. And then I am going to... all right, so the video is going to go black for a moment while I just grab a controller and try to do audio here. So excuse me for a sec. I'm going to keep talking so you know that we're still here. When the audio plays, there's probably going to be an echo, but we'll just have to deal with it for science. Okay, audio tests. So let me... Oh, I am not hearing any audio through the front jack because it's not plugged in. What an idiot. Hold on. I gotta hurry up and do this before those voltage regulators heat up. All right. So I'm hearing them on analog, but am I hearing them here? I'm not getting anything. Oh, I am. Okay. Right. Left. Okay, we're good. I'm powering the sucker off. You all heard it, correct? Me. Right. Left. Okay, cool. I just listened to my own stream. Did that hear okay? Did anybody hear any ground hum or noise? I turned up the volume pretty... Wait, I'm echoing. I'm sorry. That was the camera. I apologize. Marcus, it's super ironic that you in particular have eye problems. You know what's funny is I've always been very colorblind, and I was terrified that people would find out and be like, RetroRGB is a fraud. Yeah, you can't see right. Turns out that the type of color blindness I have is a rare kind, and I could see all the colors from 8 and 16-bit consoles, no problem. It's only when colors blend together does it get weird. So I think one side effect is that as I see sharpness a little bit differently. So in hindsight, I was actually the perfect person to start RetroRGB. All right, hold on 1 second. Let me... All right. Whew. Okay. Did not hear a hum or buzz. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. So then we are good to start reassembling. And I'm going to add thermal paste as well, just to make sure there's the best connection possible. Let me straighten this up just a bit. So I'm going to need isopropyl, head cleaners, let me get some of this out of here so I don't cause any shorts with that. And then I have to just find my thermal paste, which should be very handy. It should be right next to me. I think. If I were thermal paste, where would I be? Ah! Ha-ha! Right here. That's where I'd be. Perfect. Perfect. All right. So... unplug all this, and I will start with that. Okay. So I don't imagine Stanislav sat through that entire boring, should have been 15 minutes, took an hour to to solder that into place. But if you happen to still be watching, you could add those places to it for people that want independent control, not the same as the headphone jack slider. All right. Clean these off real nice. Clean this off. All right. All set there. Let's see if I could do this without getting it all over me. There we go. I'm going to put some right about where it's going to go. I'm probably going to accidentally use a little too much, but I don't think in these scenarios too much is a bad thing. I mean, too much to the point where it leaks down and causes a short in your motherboard, yes, but I'm talking about, like, I probably could have used a hair less. I know on some CPU installations, there's a lot of things that can go wrong, including shorting pins and having it goop out, but I think we're pretty good. I think this is pretty safe. All right. Oop. Soldering that Voltar would be proud of. I don't know about that, but soldering that he wouldn't hang his head in shame that he's my friend. I'll give myself that. I did not shame Voltar today. That is the credit I will give myself. So one trick I always use for all of these heat sinks is always the same thing. I don't tighten them down. It's like for heads on a motor. You got to kind of just do it a little bit, and then you do them in order to make sure that everything lines up properly. So I still have one cable in the way. All right. Another cable over here in the way. Let me try it again. All right. So barely tight. I wouldn't even call it tight. It's still way too much play for it to be legit and in there well. So now I'll screw in the bottom ones. Would help. I think I put it in the wrong slot. I did. Huh. Okay, one more. These are the little things that you don't really notice until you start modding consoles. Like, does it really matter if it all lines up? Yeah, it does. You don't want to put strain on your voltage regulator. because the pins are bent and stuff. It's not the end of the world, but it's just one of those, like, if you could do it right, you might as well. Okay, now it's nice and snug. And now I go back and tighten these because I know it's properly lined up with all the bottom holes as well. Those are nice and snug. There we go. Nothing hitting on the other side. Thermal paste applied. All right. Marcus, Voltar is definitely not going to do that. I normally wouldn't be comfortable answering on behalf of my friends, but I know in the past he's tried working with people to do stuff like that. And by no means am I implying that you would be this way, but I'm just saying he's had a lot of people ask him to do things like that, and then they never pay, or they're late on paying, or then they get the console, and they're like, you know what? I guess I don't think I want this console after all. You know, it's cool, it was fun, but will you take returns? Like, there's been so many nightmare scenarios that have happened that I think he's just going to stick with the whole, you buy one, send it to him, and don't drop ship it to him either, because then it gets impossible, because unless the person who drop shipped it perfectly has everything labeled, then how are you going to know? So hope that doesn't piss too many people off, but I 100% support him on that one. All right, get those longer screws. Where's the two longest? This one. So get the cartridge port in. That's snug. I don't really feel it tight, but yeah, I guess it is. That's nice and good. This one down in front, and then I think we just need that metal shielding. And here is where am I? Right here is where that audio mod popped through. So there's an easy spot for it. So it runs over here and out of the way. So because we used shielded cables, we should be totally good to go. After I get this together, I'll fire up a couple of games with decent audio so we could hear it. I think we're in luck, pretty much. It's probably going to take 2 or 3 minutes to get this whole thing together, so if anybody has any other questions, fire away. I'll do my best to help. I'll keep trying to pay attention to the chat. This is all pretty exciting, though. I'm really looking forward to the final power on and checking this thing out. So hilarious and ironic to me that this was the original Genesis that I bought to do these mods to start what at the time was a Google Doc for cousin Scott and I and maybe a couple other people that ended up being RetroRGB, and now the final mod I'm doing to it before I pass it along is just about one of the most badass mods you could possibly do to a Sega Genesis. What a long way we've all come, huh? 2, 3, where am I missing? Ah, one more right here. Right. Okay, I'm going to try it one more time before I put the case bolts on, just out of principle, and then I'll put the case bolts in, and we'll get to some more demoing. It would help if I put a cartridge in, wouldn't it? Is Neptune only for Model 2 gens? Yes. It'll drop right in if you want to use an original Model 2 Genesis. Also, if you want to transplant the chips, that'll work too. So, yes. What would I do to try to find an SNES that worked once but now doesn't? I mean, with respect, that's like saying, what would you do to try to fix a car that won't start? There are so many troubleshooting things that you'd want to go through, but I would start with checking continuity on the fuse. That's most likely, especially if you're using like a aftermarket power supply, which please make sure you're using a Triad and not one of the junky ones. But that would definitely be a big thing right there, because that would, I've many times plugged in my Triad, or plugged in the wrong Triad before I started labeling them, and shorted that fuse out. In fact, the last time I did it, I was out of SNES fuses because of how many times that happened. So I placed an order to Console 5 for the fuses, and I saw he was also selling the Triads, so I bought one of those. And I could just imagine Luke getting my order and laughing, like, a Triad power supply and a sack of fuses. Well, we know what Bob fucked up this weekend. All right, I am going to, if you all don't mind, just been touching all this flux and stuff. Let me put my tools away and wash my hands before I grab my fancy wireless Crix controller, and we should get started in less than a minute. Let me just get this off the way, this back here. All right, we'll be back in 1 second. All right, let me grab all these little metal shards off of here. Mega EverDrive Pro. So I'm going to do a couple more things, super quick, not a lot. So I just want to double check a few more things here. So let's power this sucker on. And we have signal. So I'm going to go in and play Streets of Rage real quick. Let's do 2. All right, so I have the sound coming through my PVM, but here's what I want to show. So this headphone jack right here still works. So I'm going to turn that all the way down, as you see, and now I'm going to switch over to the Genesis is now going to be plugged directly into the capture card, and I'm going to turn up the volume of the capture card. Let me know if you can't hear me over this. But this is with the headphone jack still down. That's with the headphone jack all the way up. You can probably hear the echoing in the background. So that way it's completely independently controlled of the other output. So that's I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I tried this. I often don't have the confidence to vary from the guides just because of all the bad luck I've had over the years, but I'm really glad I just shot from the hip and did that one. All right, I'm going to reset this, and I'm going to play back. I know it's probably going to echo through into your speakers. I just want to play back the recording I made real quick. Seems super quiet, so let me try something else. All right. I'm so sorry if there's an echo here. I just wanted to verify. All right. I'll turn the volume back up. So I just wanted to verify through my own speakers that this was working. And oh boy, is it working. It sounds great. So Wayne, that's exactly what I just did. We installed the, and I'm not shitting on you. I know you came later. That's exactly what the last hour of the stream was me very slowly and carefully adding that to it. So now we have audio, very good quality audio coming through the HDMI out. Analog. This audio mod allows you to route analog audio into this HDMI mod, and that's basically it. So it's required if you wanted audio through HDMI, and yeah, I mean that's. If not, you could use the headphone jack or anything else. Okay. So we're still getting slight dropouts here. So let's set the buffer. Oops, see. This is my capture card. This isn't it. So we're going to go to single buffer mode. And resolution timing 0. So as we tested at the very beginning of the stream, there's still barely any latency. I mean, I would call this 0 latency in 0 buffer mode and not at all noticeable latency in the other mode. But the only time you might really even need to care about that is with capture cards or TVs that are very sensitive. Like I'll be playing this, testing this on my OLED TV later, and I guarantee that I'm going to need to put on the compatibility mode because it just doesn't like off-time stuff. What's another game that has really good audio that we could play for just a few seconds? Not something where it's like, oh yeah, just play it for an hour, get to level 7, then get to the boss, and like something that we could just fire it up that has great music that you all would want to hear. Sonic and Streets of Rage are always my go-tos, but I know there's more. Removing the neck board for shipping, I don't know if I'd be comfortable with that, because then you would have to secure it in place so it wouldn't flop around. That could potentially do more damage, but I really do like keep them coming with suggestions. You never know. Maybe we're all going to hit one once where we're going to figure out an interesting way. I like the pool float idea. That was really good. Old couch cushions, those were great. Those were ideas from the community that a lot of people have adopted that are saving CRTs from getting smashed in delivery. Get this out the way. So Sonic 2 sound test. Contra Hardcore. I haven't played that game in a long time, and Musha. So we'll end on those two. Musha and Contra Hardcore. I'll fire up the sound test really quick. Wait a minute, that's not at all what I thought it was going to be. Hold on a second. Yeah, okay. Castlevania it is, then Musha. And does my audio need to be, or does the game audio need to be louder? Does my audio need to be louder, quieter? I think I'm going to raise the game audio a bit, but let me know if I just screwed up everything. After playing Castlevania games, anybody else walk into a place with a lit candle and wish they had a whip? You know, I'm really curious about, can I get back up there? No, probably not. All right, I will, all right, I'm going to play this again with the volume a lot louder. I was curious about one thing I want to see. So if all of your volumes are down, in a second I'm about to turn them up. So just be warned, I'm turning it up right now. What's up with the lines on the bottom? I don't see any lines on the bottom. The one thing I was just curious about when I was, because I was playing on my CRT monitor, let me get this eyeball real quick and I'll show you what I was talking about, because I've heard so many people complain when I talk about playing games in 1080p 5x that you sometimes lose important info. So let's load up resolution. Wait, no. Where is that? Screen size. Here we go. So let's go down to 4x. So if you look down on the bottom, you see the staircase, right? And you might not notice it at first, especially if you haven't played the game in a long time or ever. It's 4.5x. So as we zoom up, excuse me, you still see the staircase. It might not be as obvious, but it's definitely there. And that's the same, if not more or less overscan than you would have gotten on your average consumer CRT. So yeah. All right, so we'll go to Musha and then I'll end the stream. So glad this one went well. Thank you all for hanging out. I'm always so nervous when I do something important that I'm going to screw it up, but this went really well. Oh, Belmont, thank you. I am terrible at this game. I'm also playing in the OBS window. Let me see if I can walk back over to CRT. Still doing dual output. All right, well, this all went awesome. I'm very happy how all this turned out. I also really appreciate all of you hanging out. Thank you all so much. Any other questions, I'll hang out for like another minute. Koala, I'll message you afterwards so I can get all your stuff together for you. Yeah, perfect time to end this because I suck at this game anyway. All right, you're all awesome. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Thank you for the super chats. Just thank you for everything. This is so cool. I had a blast doing this. And I will see all of you guys next time. Thank you all very much.